Hey, good evening, everyone. Keith K.L. Belvin here, crisis specialist, author, and educator. And tonight is day 2 of the old head versus young head series, where this week you're going to get to hear me and see me talk to my children. So last night I was on with Takeoff McFadden, aka Anthony Belvin, where tonight I am on with Juice J Rock. I don't even flow off the lips the right way. Juice J Rock, aka Justin LaRock, my son. This is actually child number 6, and I'm going to hang out with him tonight. And so, just like last night, we're just going to have a conversation, and we're going to let you guys sit in and listen to us talk, and then hopefully it'll be entertaining, some information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my son, and I'm not calling you Juice, man. We're not doing that. So I'm going to call you Just, because I ain't calling no grown man Juice. Anyway, my man. So introduce yourself, son, and let everybody know who you are, what you're doing, and we're going to get into like your business and some other stuff in a little bit. So go ahead and do your thing, my man.
All right, just making sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We good to go.
Right, cool. He already pretty much introduced me, but my name is Justin LaRock. So my business, me and my 4 friends, we own a business called Family Affairs Entertainment. It's a creative entertainment firm based out of the DMV area where we have different artists, musicians, photographers, videographers, tattoo artists, even on the roster. We're just focused on expanding, making more music, creating more content in order to, make it global.
How many people involved, my man?
Right now, it's upwards of 10 plus right now that's fully involved. So yeah, we're just trying to basically grow our audience right now.
Nice. And I see you're what looks like a college campus. Is that a college campus behind you, or are you just hanging out?
Yes, sir. I am at McDaniel College up in Westminster, Maryland. It's in the middle of nowhere, but hey, education is education, right?
I'm trying to tell you, McDaniel's College. I'm not mad at you. See you out there in the sticks, but you used to that.
Bro.
Trying to front that Maryland is the hood, but we know differently.
Yeah, man, it's different. You get a little bit of everything out here, so
you can't be hood when there's deer running around, bro. So how you been, my man? Oh, are you on mute? I couldn't hear you.
All right, here we go.
Oh, there we go. How you been?
I've been good. I've been stressed working at school, working and doing schoolwork, and with the business, just trying to manage everything, honestly.
Yeah, and that's something that is super important, because you got to be able to manage it, and you can't get so caught up when you're trying to finish your schoolwork. But at the same time, the business is important because one can actually fuel the other, whichever one works. You just have to do that creative balance. And it's a good thing that you're starting off in business now, because at 21, and I'll give you age, at 21, getting things started now at 21 is going to be so lucrative for you later, because make your mistakes now. And if you don't, hey, listen, then you're paid. But making your mistakes now, or learning and pulling the trigger now, is only going to help you later on. And then you add the college piece to that as well. So you're actually pretty good. So I'm not actually going to go into the chat room. Tiff is in there. Tiff can speak to everybody in there for us. So if your folks if you want to set up the watch party or send it out to folks, it's public, they're good. So how long you been in business?
We've been in business since last year. We signed the LLC and registered as a business in the District of Columbia last year. It was May 2020 when we did it. So we've been about a year strong.
So in the midst of a pandemic, you decided to jump off and go ahead and start something. I know you had reached out to me and asked me about the LLC, but it's good to see that you went out and started. And actually last year is when I started, officially made my LLC official. So 2020 is actually a real big year. Let me ask you this. So in the midst of a pandemic, you're younger, so it's not affecting young folks as much, but we do see all the death going on around us. What was your biggest concern with trying to start a business in the midst of a pandemic when no one knows what this is or how long it's going to be?
So it's actually interesting you asked that. At the time, not only did I sign up to be a part of my friend's business, as co-owners, but I also started my own brand, Juice by J Rock.
Got you.
As a clothing line, and it was kind of, at first, it was just a lot of downtime, right? Because coming back to a college campus, you know, they didn't want students to congregate as much, obviously. A lot of it was virtual learning with some in-person classes, of course, 6 feet apart. So it was just kind of just trying to manage what I would do with a lot of that downtime where I'm not in class, where I don't have to walk to class, do this. And then they even spread out the work. So you wouldn't have as much work um, over a long periods of time. It would just be an incremental work, finish that, and then you have like free time. A lot of it was asynchronous. So that's kind of what made me, if anything, the pandemic is what made me want to jump on a business, because I felt like I would have a lot of free time on my hand. So why not use it to expand the wealth that I already want to generate for myself? So
I'm digging that. I'm digging that. And if anybody's watching in the chat group again, let me thank you for watching the Old Head versus Young Head series. I am Keith K.O. Belvin, and you are listening to Justin LaRock, son, or actually, Tiff told me to correct that, child number 6. And so this is my second to last youngest, even though he's old. He's an old man now at 21. And I am super.
Feel like it.
It don't seem like it?
Nah, I said I feel like it.
You feel
I'm not
gonna... And so I'm just really happy. And one of the things that you're going to get comfortable with, guys, as you're watching, is you're going to get to experience my children from their point of view and things that they've seen. So with that said, all right, let me ask you some things. So you're 21 years old. What was the hardest part of our relationship with that? Was it 9 years? How long was that we didn't see each other? I think it was 9 years, right?
Yeah, it was 9 years. In 2009. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how was that? What was that 9 years like? Because a lot of things transpired, and I am only going to talk a little bit. I'm only going to talk from my position, because the one thing I will not do on any of these talks is speak negative about your mothers. It's not something I do with you guys anyway. So I'm not about to come on here in front on live. That's not something I do, because it's just not respectful. So whatever you want to share, you know, I rock with it, whatever. But at the end of the day, what was those 9 years like? Because you had one mindset for 9 years, and then that changed once we reconnected. So come on, share with me your thoughts on what that was like. Come on now. So you might help somebody tonight.
So the first 9 years, like, I think about it a lot more. I feel like I think about it a lot more often than I should.
Okay.
But because I break it up into sections of my life, right? A lot of like traumatic stuff that I believe happened to me. So the first 9 years, I would say, like, it was hard. Like, thinking of like seeing everyone else have a father, even growing up in a Caribbean household where it's like, okay, I'm in a house with a lot of females, but there's the father presence is still there. So for my cousins, my uncle was still there. I have an uncle that, you know, he passed away, but at that time, like, I saw him as a father figure to me.
I remember.
So, and even other uncles that would just be around the house. So it was like, damn, like, why isn't my father there, right? So I'm getting the story from my family, the story that they wanted to share with me. So in my head, I'm being brainwashed to think like, yo, like, I guess he really doesn't want to talk to me. It is what it is. To the point where those first 9 years before I met you, every time I heard Dance with my father, I would always either cry or tell them that, oh, I could not listen to that song for anything.
I feel you.
Those first 9 years was hard. That's pretty much all I can say. And then it didn't help the fact that my mom was making different moves. You know, like she was trying to basically better her life and my life at the same time. So it's kind of not only getting pulled away from my immediate Caribbean family, but you even being in New York and knowing you're in New York, and kind of limiting that chance of ever kind of meeting you at such a young age. So I'm just kind of like, okay, so it really is just, at that time, 9 and below, it was really just me and my mom. That's really what I just see it at.
No doubt. So I remember when we had finally worked everything out to be able to now start to come and see you. And so I remember picking you up. And I remember when I first brought you to, now you get to meet Grandma Tina and Grandma Chrissy, and we come to the house. I remember you were like a deer in headlights. You were like, yo, I don't know what to do. You met your brothers. And I remember that very first night when I was like, "Are you hungry?" You were like, "No." I was like, "Okay." Everybody's grubbing like cavemen. We go downstairs and play the game. You were like, "Dad, I'm hungry." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute.
Right.
I just asked you earlier, were you hungry?" And you were like, "No." I was like, all right, check this out. One time, you get a one-time pass. Come on, let me go get you something to eat." But then I was like, nah, when it's time to eat, it's time to eat. But I noticed that one of the things that I loved was that once we started to see each other, you fit right in. Like you didn't have a problem. And that was something that I really wanted to try to do, was that I knew I couldn't make up for what had happened before. And I'm not going to go into, they don't need to know everything that went in before, but you and I both know there were things put into place that changed the narrative. And so there was only so much I could share with you because of your age that kept that going to a degree. But I was like, at least if I now can start to see him, or I can come get him in the summertime, whatever it was. And then your distance made a factor because you're down in Maryland, I'm here in New York. But I think that the better thing is, as that changed, as you started to come and hang out with your brothers, as you started to hang out with your grandmom and your great grandmom, and now you're getting to experience everyone, at least put an anchor in the water to be able to, like, well, as you get older, you'll see what I was trying to tell you.
Right. And that was one of the things I realized too. I was like, I've been fed so much about who he actually is without me experiencing it. So
yeah, you got the you got the Republican side, you got the negative papers. You were told some real bad things about me, yo, but it's okay. It's okay. I rock with it. I deserved it.
So
I wasn't the greatest dude, but you know.
At that time, being a young, like growing up, I'm just like, okay, why not believe it? These are the people that I see every day, you know.
No doubt.
Why not believe it? So that's kind of why first meeting I didn't want to eat, because I'm like, yo, like, yes, you say yes, this is the person that is supposed to be my father, but this is the first time I'm meeting him in 9 years. Like, why would I just
Act like everything's cool?
Yeah, you feel me?
Yeah.
So that was that.
So what would you say to a young man right now? And I understand everything that you went through in terms of your dad, because you were lucky enough to meet me at 9. I didn't meet my father until 39. And so, and you've met grandpa, and I didn't meet him until 39, and I had to fix that myself. But I was the type that I hated anything that was connected to fatherhood, because I didn't have a father, and I kept hearing how I looked like my father and all this other stuff, and I wasn't hearing it. And something that you and I talked about before, the Will Smith, the Will Smith, the Will Smith episode with Ben Vereen, when he was like, "Why my dad don't want me?" And I told you I used to get emotional watching that, and then you shared what with me?
Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah, man.
Emotional with it too. I remember one time, I think I saw it on Twitter one time and tweeted it. I was like, "Oh man, this."
Why he don't want me? Yeah, man. And that broke me up, because the crazy part is I watched that live, and that was a hard night. And I was just like, I'm gonna go ahead and punch somebody in the face, man. I was tight. But I understood it, because that whole scene, he had Uncle Phil, but it's when you don't have your actual father that you can't actually say some things to and share some things to, it makes it very tough. And it's like, I think, well, I want to ask you this. What would you say to any single mother out there right now who is purposely keeping the child away from the father and then readjusting that narrative? What would you say to that mother? Tell the folks listening so that maybe they can share it. She might be watching. Not your mom, just saying the single mom. What would you say to that mother who's doing those things of keeping the father away and then at the same time readjusting the child's thoughts towards that father? What would you say to that mother why she shouldn't do that from your position?
So the first thing I would let them know is that they're thinking in the moment and not in the future.
Great point.
Because a lot of what I heard is, I know they're trying to protect their child at that moment. It's all from a place of love and protection. So in that moment, you may think that's the best thing to do, but 10 years from now, for example, like how we are even on this podcast, and all of those things that you're telling your child is like, you don't know the detriment it can have, not only on a relationship with the father, but also on a relationship with you. Once you realize like the
Talk to
child's
him.
coming of age, learning the stories, hearing the different perspectives, and putting together his own narrative of what the truth actually was. You might not realize how detrimental it can be in the relationship with your child itself. So yes, be cautious of what you let a young child know, but don't spread false information knowing that it may come back in the future to hurt both sides. So.
That is a fantastic answer, son. I appreciate that, because that speaks to a lot, especially with you and I. And I hope that any mother with a son is watching, because one of the things that I deal with in counseling is trying to remind mothers, don't put salt in the water. Yes, it's a bad thing that you and the father are not together, or the father may not be in a child's life. I got that. And if it's on purpose and he's just being distant, I understand it. And I tell people I understand it. I came up in a house full of women just like yourself. And as you know, you heard your brother say last night. But it's that changing of the narrative piece that is super dangerous, because when you tell those lies, those are some hard lies to hold on to, because as you get older and now you're able to go search, if it don't line up, it's like what you said. So let's jump to 16. I think it was 2016, right?
Yeah.
16.
Yeah. I would say
So,
that's the second part right there.
yeah, that's the second part. So let's jump to 2016. Walk me through. Now we're some years past. Now we've moved forward. Now we're to 2016. Walk me through what that looked like now that you're older, you're in high school, and now the veil is starting to come down some. Now you're starting to learn. So walk me through what that looked like for you.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about this second part, because that's the
Go right ahead.
birth to 9 to 9 to 16.
Go right ahead.
16, that was after our first introduction. We were talking a lot more. So I got to know you, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't sound half as bad as the person everyone was pointing him out to be. Although we would still talk, I was still young and you're still busy, and I'm still in a different state. It's still hard for us to communicate and see each other. Yeah. So I'm still hearing in my ear from my mother and everyone else, like, oh, like, yeah, he's making the effort, but he ain't making the effort he's supposed to. So then in my head, I'm like, yeah, he is making the effort, but he isn't making the effort he's supposed to. So what's really going on here? So I'm kind of like, all right, maybe he's just holding me at bay. So it turns from like, I'm not gonna lie, it turned from like hatred to like, okay, is he toying with me? So that part was a little difficult too, because I'm like, all right, like I have now I'm in high school, I'm in middle school and high school. I'm developing feelings and I'm analyzing situations. So I'm like, okay, like maybe it is more than what my family is saying, you know, maybe there is this, and I'm getting angry and angrier as I get older, because I'm like, I know there's more to the story that I'm not being told yet. This is what I'm stuck with. So at that point, like I talk to my best friends all the time. Like they'll tell you or tell me, like back in like freshman year, they would talk about my father, and I'll be like, yo, I don't know that guy. Like I don't talk about him. Like whatever.
So that's just that dude in New York. Yo, he cool when I see him, but yeah.
So like 16, where we start communicating based on like everything that was going on at that like pivotal moment. And I'm like, all right. So a lot of information was even withheld from you about what my life was like.
Exactly.
So
I was being so let me just put a pin there. So I was being lied to on the other side.
Right.
So lies was being told to you.
Yeah.
A whole separate set of lies was being told to me. Yeah. We're both reacting to the lies while still trying to see each other and fix what is wrong with you and I while still being lied to, which now, unfortunately, because once you and I connected and started to get closer, it was harder for those lies to hold up. So go ahead.
And it was even weird because every time we would get together, like you said, it was so natural. Like it was as if those lies never existed. It wasn't anything. There was no truth to the matter. But anyway, so the veil gets pulled back, and it's to the point where I have no one else to go to. Like there's no one for me to talk to because it's a situation between me and my mother. And she says you can talk to two people. One of them was my godmother and one of them was you. So believe it or not, I talked to my godmother first.
Of course.
And she was and she was cool about it. I actually told her everything. Like my mom said she told her everything. So I'm thinking off of the premise that she actually told her everything. So I'm telling her all of it from 1 to 16. And she's like, yo, I ain't never heard this.
She didn't know either. So again, she was caught in the dark. So
so then I call you and I literally tell you everything, and it's not matching up with my mom's everything. So at that point, I'm just like, all right, you know what? Like, there's a lot of things that I don't know. There's a lot of things that we haven't had a conversation about. But at this time, I'm going through such a well, I don't know how to describe it. Such a like transition in my life where it's like I got to make decisions on my own. I got to talk to these people that are here for me right now and figure out who's going to be here when it's time to actually like stand
and that's
up.
That's when I told you, regardless of whatever's going on, I got you. But I think because of everything that you were dealing with, you got to experience who I really am, what I'm trying to do, because I had to walk you down from some very negative thoughts that you had. And then at the same time, have to be able to teach you when I hadn't had that opportunity to teach you before. So I had to be very careful in how I voiced it because I didn't have you in presence with me. But I was like, well, let me walk you through this because I understood exactly where you were emotionally. Yeah. And I think when you were going through your different situations, when I started to explain to you that not only do I understand, I know how to get past that, you started listening, you started realizing that the pieces that I was showing you how to play them on the chessboard started to line up. Yeah. And I think that's when everything blew up, because at that point, there was no lie that could be continued to be told because nothing that I had didn't line up with trying to help you. Mm-hmm. And I think for myself, what I had to learn was my anger was for different reasons. And your sister, let me see, you got your sister Tiff, you got a bunch of people in the chat room. I can't keep up with it. I try not to because then I get sidetracked. But hey, Kiara's there. Hey, Kiara. But what I realized that now I've played close simply because I knew the opportunity to be able to explain to you who I was, what I do, and how I do it was going to come to the forefront. But your anger was such that I knew that if I don't reach you now, you're going to go out and do something stupid. Mm-hmm. And then if you go out and do something stupid,
I still ended up doing something stupid.
Basically. But I think it would have been worse if we hadn't talked, because a couple of times it was like, okay, go take a walk outside. Call me from outside, call me from up the block, whatever the situation is. And I think what happens, and you can speak to it more too, as I say it, when you start to realize that everything that's been fed to you is a lie, not only do you lose respect for all those people that you claim to love, it now starts to become a matter of, I can't trust you because you told me my dad was this way, but the minute I was in trouble, not only did he get there quicker to help me, he continues to help me, but I never said a bad word about your mom. I never went out of pocket that way. And I think one of the things is no matter how angry I got with her, when I spoke to you, I was not about to transfer that anger to you, which you already swole up with a whole lot that was going on. So walk us through, because now 2016, I come to Delaware, so now I'm closer. And you come up, let's see, I think you came up for that Thanksgiving. Was that 16 or 17?
I think it was 17.
17. So the next year when you come up 17, now you're firmly in college, in high school. We work some things out, and now you're still uncovering that lies was told to the school. How are you feeling when all these lies are now starting to uncover? Because again, at the end of the day, you still want to respect your mom, but what was that like now that you and I are straight, but how is that now at home with your mom?
Right, so it's weird because.
And Kiara said, what's up?
What's up, Kiera? But thinking about that time, it was just like as I was going through it, I was a junior transitioning to a senior. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, if anyone knows, that's like the hardest time in high school. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
actually when the work matters. You know, you applying to colleges and everything. I remember pivotal times in high school. Like I'm going through this with my mom. I'm finding out that my dad's here. I'm trying to apply to college. Now, on top of that, I got to deal with FAFSA. Like, and now I got to figure out like how to figure that out.
And you're
So
playing
it's like,
ball, and it was supposed to
and
be
I'm
your
playing.
year. It was
Yeah.
it was supposed to be your.
So So I'm like, yo, like at this point, I always say this to a lot of my friends because they know what I was doing in Sandy Spring senior year. I'm like, senior year was probably the best and worst.
Yes, yes, it
That was
was.
2017, 2018. Senior
I
year was the
remember.
best and worst time of my life
Yeah,
because although I was going through so much stuff, I kind of fell off the roller coaster and did not care. I had no care. I was
yeah,
really
yeah. I
just
remember. And you know, it's
obviously
crazy. I want to go back a second to the year before, when I came down to your first basketball game, and I'm gonna show you how the Lord works too. When I came down to your first basketball game, Tiff, your sister, KL, and I was sitting in the stands. We're rooting you on, but you know I'm quiet because I'm in coach mode and I'm watching because I'm like, yo, he better not embarrass me. He been talking all this trash on the phone. I hear the numbers, but now I'm in the stands. I don't want to claim him just yet. Let me see if he can play. But we're cheering you, and I remember it was the white lady that the good friend of yours, your partner's mom, and the
yeah.
family and a couple other people were sitting right below us. And when they heard us cheering, and I was, barking some instructions, and I had said, "Come on, son, your dad ain't come all the way down here to see this. Come on." I think you had threw up some trash layup, but anyway. And they kind of turned around, but I wasn't really paying attention to them. And what's so classic was that game comes down to it's a tie. You get fouled with like 3 seconds left on the clock, and then you sink the 2 free throws to win the game, and y'all win the game. And I was like, how about that? I come down here, my son hit the game-winning free throws. So then when I was waiting for you to come out of the locker room, the lady goes, Ann said he'll cook you. Yeah. So the white lady goes, "Are you Justin's father?" I said, "Yes, I am." And so when she's talking to me, you can see that look in her face like, you're nothing like what we were told. And I had to joke when I said, "Oh, you're expecting like a convict to come down here with like the do-rag on and like a 40-ounce bottle or whatever." She kind of looked like, yeah. I said no. And then I explained to her I was a teacher and whatever. And it was funny because all of them were like, "You're Justin's father?" "Yes, I am." And I said, "This is my wife and this is Justin's sister." And you can see how like the lie was like just ridiculous. And then you came out, we connected and everything. And then when I came back down for your championship game,
Mm-hmm.
I think that was even more interesting because now your mother was in the same place with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see the fear
Mm-hmm.
on her face because I didn't know which side to sit on. So I didn't even know I was on the opponent's side. So I'm over there cheering. I was wondering why I was getting the nasty looks. But y'all did work that game. And so I remember when you and I was on the floor, everybody's celebrating and we're good. And I remember, I don't know who the black lady was that came over and was talking to me. And she was like, "You're Justin's father?" I was like, "Yeah."
College
She's like,
counselor, Candace, I still talk to.
"Yeah." And she was like, I've never been told about you. I was like, "Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot." But I remember when your mom was standing there, she was terrified. She was standing there and she had this look on her face. And you and I looking at her like, "Yeah, you can come over." And even taking a picture, she was scared that we had to actually say to her, "Come over here and take the picture with her." But I think that was the moment when it was like, are you going to let all this go now? Because what else are you going to hold on to? And then I think that summer is when things just really got bad because she made moves that when you and I spoke, just moves that just wasn't, I'm going to say it, smart with you going into your senior year. And there are moves that I would not have made, and it's things that I would not have put that type of mental pressure on a young man. And I think it threw you into such a bad place that by the time we got to August, when school was getting ready to start, you was in no position to even look at your senior year the right way, and it just carried over through the whole year, man.
Yeah, it started that summer, like you said. Like that senior year was a was a
Yeah.
whirlwind to say the least. But yeah, going back to it was crazy because I like moments that you just described, I can repeat back to you exactly what was going on
Yeah,
from
I
the
remember.
beginning of when I walked into the gym to the moment I went to that after party after we won the game.
I remember
Like I
because you
can
said,
literally,
"Pop, I'm going to go hang out." Yeah.
yeah, I could tell you exactly what happened because it was just a different feeling. Like I'm not one to talk back to coach or anything. I'm gonna just do what needs to be done. I remember hitting those 2 free throws, looked over to coach, and I was like, "Yo, when the game's on the line, I'm gonna win you the game." Like I literally told him that. I was really talking right there.
You're feeling yourself now, like, yeah.
For real. But yeah. So going into my senior year of high school, I just kind of like at that time, I kind of just blanked out and just let life happen to me. Like I wasn't taking control of anything.
Yeah.
Because there were times I remember from February to the end of the year, I would go into my stats class or whatever and just sit there. Like
Yeah.
my teacher would talk to me. I'm just like, I don't want to tell you because if I tell you, I got to explain everything. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
and I
just
remember basketball took a hit because I remember you then got upset because you were moved to the bench
right.
when it should have been you were starting, but you said yourself, Pop, I really didn't work out. My head just wasn't in it. You
And I
admitted
said
that you
that too.
just, and I understood it.
I said to you, I wish I had this IQ in my freshman year body. I'm going D2 or D1. Like I was.
And then you actually said you wanted to transfer. You was like, can I skip basketball for my senior year and come to Delaware and go to finish up in school because then I'll play ball in Delaware. I was like, nah, that wouldn't be the prudent move with everything that you had on because you were just like, yo, I just can't down here. And you were like, I want to come live there. And I was like, you can come and listen, the door is always open. But I was like, let's be smart about how we can do this with everything that you had going, especially with the other people at the school that you had helping you, the guidance counselor, I forget what her name was. She was tremendous. Her and I spoke. And I think that was the thing for me was that as an educator, when I spoke to the people around you and they finally got a chance, they literally were told that I didn't want to have anything to do with you. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have any of my information. They didn't have nothing. And so when we had the chance to sit down and talk, and I got a chance to explain to them that not only am I involved, I'm actually trying to repair a lot of the damage that was put in place. The lady kept saying, oh God, that makes sense. Oh God, you know what? That makes sense. And all of a sudden she was able to do a 360, which then they put a hedge around you because then they said, because she said, I was wondering why he was acting different. I was wondering why he wasn't talking, why he wasn't sharing. And to you guys watching, let me explain this. And this is to the fathers that's watching. Yes, it may be very difficult when dealing with your children's mothers, especially if you have multiple children. Remember that everything that you do is going to have some type of effect on the children. You will see that as I talk to my other children coming up this week as well. And I didn't do everything right. I admit that. But the one thing that I try to do is just from where I can keep an eye on what's going on. And one, own your mistakes. When you mess up, own it. Because there's nothing that you can do. And in Justin's case, when I got to talk to the people around him, when they figured out what it was, they became my extension. They became the people that could speak to his mother when I couldn't be there. They were the ones that would say, well, tell Justin to do this. They were the ones that literally moved Justin out of his house onto campus and found the money for him to finish school so he wouldn't be in a bad situation that he was in emotionally because they wanted him to finish school because of the young man that he was. But when I got a chance to speak to them, they knew that he had other folks that was involved. And I think if some of those things were in place, I can only imagine where you might have ended up, especially with the fact that you still had to finish up strong because you were going to college and you had already thought about going to college. So what has that been like now the last 3 years, now that you finished high school and you've moved on to college? What has that been like?
So it's been a growing experience, I should say, actually, because that period from like everything I was going through senior year just to get to college and then even figuring out how to pay for college was a lot of growth. I had to learn how to work learn how to budget.
Which we talked
And
about because I had to give you a formula that was going to help you with your bread.
Understand the importance of credit cards. Understand the importance of cars, and things like that. And it's honestly, I love the fact that I went through it, because I feel like I wouldn't have learned to do it any other way, and I wouldn't have learned to do it in such a good way either. I feel like I probably would have resorted to, like how I was senior year, just kind of letting life happen to me. I actually got my first tattoo, which was it says "Live free like God," because at that time I was like, okay, I'm gonna live free in terms of I'm gonna live free in my life. I'm gonna do the things that I need to do and live on my accord. But in doing so, I'm gonna let God take control.
No doubt.
And have Him lay the pieces where they may, and let Him handle everything else.
No
So
doubt.
that's what I got my first tattoo based off of, and that's kind of what I've been living with ever since. Just kind of figuring out this life thing. If I need help, I have pieces that I can go to and figure it out. On every sector, and that's why I'm grateful for everyone who's helped me through everything that I was going through at the time. Because a lot of the people that know about the situation I was going through, I still talk to this day. I just got off the phone with my college counselor earlier today, asking her if she had any connections on who I can go show my presentation to. And I was one of the most pivotal people at that moment. And I know any one of those people I can just hit up and call, or they're a text away, that would definitely help me.
Gotcha. So. And you realize, and I think that's some of the things that you and I talked about, because now our conversations are different. Right. Now we can talk about a lot of things that you being at 21 and making the moves that you're making. There's a lot of things that I can offer in a certain way that you can get it, and it makes sense. And there's some of my genes there were, well, my genes are there without question. So you were the so quote unquote ladies man, which is, I guess, part of this DNA. So you have kind of slowed down, because there was a time when you were trying to run around the school butt naked, but we're not going to talk about that situation.
I was violent. I mean, it was fun, like I said.
We're not going to talk about it to protect the innocent. But I noticed that your full figure genes has kicked in, and so I know that you're in a committed relationship. You want to tell us a little something about that, Smooth?
Yeah. So we've been together. Tamara, my girlfriend, we've been together for about 2.5 years now. Almost.
Think so? Yeah, I think that's about it.
She's been all the help in the world, but one thing for sure that I know makes her different from any other relationship I had in the past was she understands everything that I went through when I explained it to her. Because like I said, once I got into the relationship, I hold nothing back. I'm going to let you know exactly who I am and what I went through. So one thing, it didn't scare her off. And she tells me what I don't want to hear either. Nice. So I think that's the one thing that like sets her apart from every relationship. Because a lot of the girls I mess with were kind of just like oh man, it's okay, everything is right, this, that, and the third. While she's over here telling me not like, you can't do that. So I'm like, you better be on your shit. There was one day I told her I was ready to quit. I was ready to quit my job here at the school, and she was like, "Quit what job?" I said, "No, I'm not trying to go back to how I was feeling." She said, "Unless you have another job set up, you ain't quitting this one. You got responsibilities."
Nice. I love it. Yeah. So let me ask you this: talking to the young men out there, because you started when you was about 19 and a half. Actually, no, about 19, 18 and a half. Y'all been together for a minute, about 19. 18, yeah. So if you were talking to other young brothers and sisters your age, what would you tell them is the best and the hardest part of being in a committed relationship at such a young age?
All right, so let's start with the worst. The worst part of being in a committed relationship at this age is having those conversations you don't want to have, right?
Gotcha.
Because there's been times where we've we've both known something's wrong, and one of us has to stand up and say like, all right, we got to address this. And although like, and you're still young at this point, so you might not want to hear what the other person's trying to say, and you might not understand, but you got to have those conversations. That's one of the hardest parts about it, is the communication. Like you always hear this from older couples, you know, like, yeah, it ain't always perfect. So I'm learning that now. Like it isn't always perfect. You know, you always got to communicate and figure it out. But the best thing about it is knowing that you have someone to support you through it, like no matter what. So that's one thing. Like there's been so many things that I've told her, like a lot of things that I told her from my high school days that I'm sure that would just turn any other girl off. Like, yo, you was really doing that, like. But instead of you were doing that, it was why were you doing it, and how can I help or be there for you so that situation never even gets close to even something of that measure. So that's the best part about it, really.
Great response.
One that I can always go to.
Great response.
Anyone.
Great. And remember when I picked you up from the train station, I joked about, you know, when you're going to find you a good woman, when you came up for Thanksgiving at 17. And I was telling you that, you know, when you have a good woman in your life, everything is easier. And I had said to you, I'm not worried about how the house is going to look when you get there. Tiff got you. Right. And then when we got there and opened up the spare room, Tiff had you. Everything was straight. Everything was like you was at a hotel. And then Tiff is definitely going to feed you to the point that you're about to pass out in the morning. So, you know.
I did pass out. Remember that? I ain't wake up
till like 2
in the afternoon. I was
That's
out.
Right. That's right. Yeah, she did make enough food that it was like the itis was setting in for a minute. But that's the beauty of being in a relationship that works when you have someone that you can trust, because it allows you to lower your guard and feel comfortable. And for you, after coming through everything that you had came through, to actually find somebody that you could rest with in that capacity, that's a good thing. And I would just simply say, do what you can to make it work. You two keep grinding. And, you know, you and I are going to talk about it on a regular anyway, just to stay on top of it, because I can hear the happiness, and you and I have spoke about it. And I think you're focusing and you're strong on the direction that you're going in. So how is the relationship with her and your mother? Because I know that can be.
That's interesting that you said that, because they actually had their first long interaction, and
all right, here we go. Talk to me.
It didn't turn out as best as it could.
Was that recently, or was that
within like a month ago? Like
okay. Was that when we spoke on the phone when y'all were up there, or after that?
Nah,
that situation.
Yeah, it was that situation.
That weekend. Okay, so go ahead, walk me through it.
But anyway, T's a very direct person.
Okay.
The way she communicates with people isn't necessarily always, you know, nice how people want it to be. She's gonna.
Got you.
She wears her feelings on her sleeve and she lets it know.
Got you.
One thing my mother doesn't like is people. She says it's disrespect, but just basically going against what she wants to do.
Anybody that stands on their own and doesn't agree with her, automatically it's something negative.
Right. So spending 3 full days with them kind of combated to the point where it's like I told T before we took the trip, you know how my mom is. You know how my mom is, you know what's gonna happen. I already know what's gonna happen. I told my mother, and I already knew how my mother was gonna react to T. So I was just kind of waiting for it to happen, and hoping that they both kind of just leveled out and was like, nah, we're not gonna do this weekend, but it happened anyway. So the relationship between them are good, but I feel like over time they're gonna have to get used to the two different personalities.
How did you deal with that balance? Because it could have been real easy for you to say, yeah, T, get her, because now, you know, give some back, but I know that's not your style. So how were you able to balance that out? Because I know when we spoke on the phone, I could hear the tension in your voice, and I was like, nah, just chill. But then I told you, you know, the decision that you were thinking. And again, guys, the reason why we're not giving you all of the details, because we're trying to be respectful to Justin's mom. But when you gave me all the details about what was wrong, and I said, well, if that's the decision that you want to do, go ahead and do that, because there's just some things you don't have to. And the reason why I said it the way I said it to you was because I was thinking of your lady, because the longer you keep, because I went through that with Tiff at times too, because Tiff had some problems with your aunts, and it was over stuff that really just didn't make any sense. But I had already prepped Tiff to say this is what's going to happen. But then when things really did unwind, and I now had to step in to get things settled down, it is what it is. And it was like, okay, now we're not going to do this. But that's why I said to you, I heard what you were planning, and I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do and your lady's with you, go ahead and do it, because sometimes the best thing is to just separate, just to get away. Even if you just got to leave something behind and go, okay, y'all rock with that. We're going to go ahead and do this. So how was you able to play that wedge in between?
So it's funny you say that, because I feel like I didn't at all.
I'm sure.
It happened. Me and my mother had an issue. My girlfriend knew exactly what the issue was, because I didn't even have to tell her. She just knew. And it came to the point where if something is too overwhelming to me, I kind of shut down, where I don't address it. I'm just like, You know what? It's not worth it. So I'm just sitting there, I'm quiet, and I'm quiet to everyone, because I'm just trying to hold in my anger, not trying to spew it out on people. But T did the perfect thing in making sure I was okay, and then kind of just taking over the situation in terms of getting us through the situation.
Gotcha.
I put it on autopilot, and she started flying. She just navigated it through. She basically just, she started talking to my mom, like conversing just about regular stuff, just trying to make sure that conversation was flowing, so that the air wasn't as thick and things like that. And she just basically held down what I was already over with. I was ready, because I was ready for her to just be like, go ahead, T, go ahead and do it. Like, I don't
can't let her beat up your moms, man.
I wasn't gonna let her beat up my mom. I was like, yo, if y'all get into it,
but secretly, a part of you was like, yeah, go keep stepping over that line, Mom. I might let her get a couple of.
Like, yo, listen, whatever happens, happens. She got it. I ain't worried anymore.
We're not advocating women fighting. That's not what we doing. We're not doing that. All right, so my man, listen, I love it. So what I want you to do is I want you to give out all your business information. Make sure you take your time and say it slow, so everybody can know how to connect with you on the different social media sites, as well as everybody can hear your business information. So what I want you to do is to restate your business again, give out your business information nice and slow so everybody can hear it. And I think Tiff is watching. If she can catch it all, she'll put it in the chat room for everybody. So go ahead, because I want to make sure everybody gets to hear everything.
Got you. So the business website that we have is Family Affairs Ent. It's family, V instead of an A, and then affairs, a Z instead of a S, and then abbreviated entertainment, ENT.com. The Instagram page is Family Affairs, spelled the exact same way. No entertainment at the end, just Family Affairs. The Twitter page is the same. What else?
Your personal
my personal clothing brand is Juice by JRock, JROC. And then my personal page is Juice, JROC on Instagram and Twitter. So
gotcha. So before we close out, because I wanted to try to keep it to around an hour, do you see yourself becoming a father?
Yes, for sure.
And what's the one thing, with everything that you've learned from your situation with me and the situation with your mom, what's the one thing you want to make sure that you have in place from the moment your child can understand it? What is the one thing that you want to make sure that your child has in place?
Honesty. That's one thing that I'm big on. I find it hard for me to even lie now. Like omission of the truth is a lie, but I'll do that instead of lying. Like, I'd rather just shut my mouth and say nothing instead of lie nowadays. Because I feel like I've been lied to a lot. And steered wrong in terms of how life could have went and the things that I could have experienced and the things I've missed out on that are so important in life. So honesty, and then also just making sure that I'm not leading any negative narrative. I'm gonna after that, let God be in control of everything else that happens from there.
I love it. Now, the last thing that I'm gonna ask you is, and this I want you to the young man or young lady that's out there, because you have your brothers and your sister coming up after you. To that young man or that young lady out there that's distant from their father, like you and I were for quite some time. Give them an idea of what that felt like when we were able to finally reconnect and start to move into a better place. And I think we're still on that journey as we go, but I think we're in a so much better place than we were. But what did that feel like when it finally started to move and the veil was now lifted? Because I want a young man or young lady watching, we want to give them some type of hope that it's never as bad as they think it is. So what did that feel like? And I want to end on that.
The one thing it feels like is everything that I felt before was relieved. So all of that hatred, all of that what ifs, every emotion that you had before isn't necessarily solved, but you feel a relief of, okay, this is what I finally have closure on what could have been, what it is, and I'm looking forward to what it is going to be. So yeah, I would say relief. That's one thing you have looking forward to, that is you don't have to worry. You don't necessarily have to worry about what's going to happen anymore. Because I don't want to say, you don't know what situations people have gone through. So
got you.
One thing I feel is relief.
Great answer, my son. Let me tell you something, to you and to all of your brothers and sisters. I was never perfect. I can't even attempt to even think about that. And I've made a lot of mistakes. But the one thing I am super proud of all of you is that all of you have been able to overcome the hurdles that were put into place and have made moves. Your brother and sister have become parents. And all of you have been able to overcome a lot of negativity, a lot of it my fault, some not. But I'll take the blame for all the things that I did, because at the end of the day, I can only take ownership of what I've done. But I can honestly say I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud of your brothers. I'm super proud of your sister. And hopefully the light in the door will be on for the sister that we have that will come back to the fold and join us to, we can fix that as well too. So I simply want to say to you, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be able to get to that position, to have a conversation with you, because you could easily just said, no, I don't want to have anything to do with you at all, and believe the narrative so badly that the door was closed completely. So I just want to say thank you for even allowing yourself to listen. And I'm super proud of what you're doing and where you're going. And so as we bring this to a close, all of you watching, this is my son, J-Rock, and you have his information in the chat. Support him, share it. Make sure that you share this video out. If you didn't start a watch party, do it tonight. Let folks know. If you need to reach me, you know my information. bravenconsultant.com. That is my website, or just hit me in my inbox and let me know, and we can, I counsel, and I counsel mostly with women, but I do work with couples because I'm big on the restoration, on the repair. And I want to be able to try to fix a lot of these things. And the reason why I did this old head, young head series, let me end with this, is I wanted you to meet my children. Because yes, you guys know me. You hear the things that I say. But I want you to see the blessing that they have become, sometimes with me and sometimes without me at all. And you'll learn some of that as I talk to some of my other children. But when you get to meet my other children, as well as you've seen tonight, you will see that God has kept his hands around them. And I pray for that every night. I pray for all of them and their mothers every night. So even when I wasn't there, I still prayed for them. And the reason why is because I knew the things that I couldn't do, I knew God would do. And so they've all went through their bumps, bruises, scrapes, and scratches, but they're all doing well and they're all healthy and they're all not criminals, which they could have easily turned out to be. So again, I want to say thank you to all of you watching. I will jump back in and respond to all of the comments. And I know, thank you. Shout out to Tiff, who's been holding it down. Shout out to Kiera. your sister who was in, Anthony who was in. Shout out to Rob. Shout out to Pam. Shout out to Tamari, Lois, Missy. Yeah, a lot of folks on tonight, bro. Kira, just as you. We had Pam here. We had Michelle. We had Lakeisha. We had Brother Gary was on tonight. Amy was on tonight. Sari was on tonight. Of course, your brother Takeoff was here. And anybody that I missed, blame it to my head, not my heart. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, I think 7:30. No, I think it's 7:30. Let me just double check. I want to give the right information. I believe I'm on with the Haitian Hulk tomorrow, and the Haitian Hulk is my son Elijah. Let me just say what it is. 8 o'clock. So tomorrow at 8 o'clock, guys, I will be on with child number 4, Elijah, aka Ja. And Ja is a super workout freak who's transformed his body. And again, you're going to get to hear things from his point of view. And again, the point of this is I want to let you know what goes on behind the scenes with me. I don't hide anything. I'm transparent. I've made mistakes. It's okay. I admit to them. I pray about them and I ask the Lord to forgive me for them. And I do it and the lights is on for all my children. It is what it is. But something with DMX's death didn't sit right with me when I heard someone say, now what's those 11 kids going to do? And when I thought about those 11 kids, I thought about my 7 children. Now, yes, I'm here with KL and you guys have seen that, but it made me think about Justin. It made me think about Kiara. It made me think about Lord, Jonathan and Anthony and Elijah. And there is one child that I have not mentioned, Courtney. She's the one that closed the door and doesn't want to have anything to do with me. And I understand and I respect it, but I'm not giving up yet. And I believe that before it's all said and done, I'll have an opportunity to have a conversation with her so I can kind of explain to her what that looks like from my point of view, because unfortunately, she's been given some information like Justin was that is not completely true, but I can only help what I'm allowed to help with. But I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight. Let's keep this going tomorrow night. Let's keep this going Thursday. And very, very importantly, I want to see you next Monday when I'm on with my daughter. Now, Friday, you know, Tiff and I are on Unapologetically Keith, our regular spot, 9:30 in the Unapologetically Keith room. So, you know, hopefully I'll see you there. And again, if you need private counseling, if you need somebody to talk to privately, if this is something that you'd like to talk about, if you're dealing with your child's father, whatever the situation is, reach out. I am here to help. I want to say thank you. It has been a blessing. Justin, I want to say thank you. I love you, bro. Keep up what you're doing. You know, I'm here for as long as the Lord will allow me to be. And thank you so much. And so you can tune in tomorrow to support your brother. And guys, again, have a wonderful night. I am Keith K.L. Belvin. That is Justin LaRock, and we are out. God bless, guys. Take care. Thanks, Just.
No problem.